Hi and good morning to another instalment of Monday Brews and Views. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, although I am mental health first aid trained. A lot of things that I talk about are from my own experience and knowledge, shouldn't be used for a substitute for medical help and advice. That being said, I do hope that you find some of these things interesting and useful in some way. So last week I gave you a riddle, and it was, you can see me in water, but I never get wet. What am I? So the answer to that one was, if you haven't already figured it out, is the reflection. A reflection. That is the answer to the riddle. Like I said, I use riddles just to give you something different to think about, other than potentially some negative thoughts that might go through your mind. It's going to distraction, focus your mind on something else momentarily, and if you can use that in a way to block all the other things out purely while you think about that, without cheating, without going on YouTube or whatever, internet and stuff. So use those. If you're feeling down, then just try it out. Think about the riddle that I've given you, and try and use it to help you get distracted from what I've got going on around you. It's causing you stress and whatnot. Okay, so today's topic is going to be sort of 5 strategies to help improve your mental health. Last week we talked about, also just a quick recap, we talked about the CUR and how you can help people who may be in need of some help. A friend of mine, Phil, pointed out that being aware is also, having awareness is a key to that. So being aware is the number one thing. It also, a lot of the time, people who are aware, people who are sensitive in a sense to other people's mental health, because they've had experiences themselves, a bit like myself. And I've had my own issues with my own mental health, and sometimes it's not as easy to spot sometimes when you're in that state of mind, but then you can spot it sometimes a bit easier when you're on the upside of that, shall we say. So last week, we talked about CUR, C being check for risk of significant harm. So, potentially people who are thinking about committing suicide. People are thinking about hurting themselves in some way or another. And A was applying non-judgmental communication. So just basically talking to them and not coming to any assumptions about what they're doing, how they're doing it, or why they're doing it, and just being there to listen, and using active listening in order to help them through that, and getting them to and try and talking them around if you can. Reassure them was the R, and supply information. So once you've reassured them, you can then help them to go somewhere and to get that help, whether it be a doctor, whether it be Minds Matter, anything like that, some place where they can get the help that they need. And then another one, this is possibly for more people that have sort of low level, maybe even no chronic, but low level mental health, but are willing or incapable to encourage them to do self-help. And I guess that goes for a lot of people, regardless of your level, to be fair, of your mental health and mental state, is that you should be trying to help yourself, and not just also focus on the negatives. Focus on ways that you can help yourself. So today, 5 strategies that you can use, and these can be done and should really be done on a daily basis. You should be sort of checking in on yourself and making sure you've ticked some of these boxes, which will help with you, make you more happier, more positive, and allow you to get more out of life. So the first one is connect. Now during lockdown, a lot of us connected, some of us disconnected, and some of us got reconnected with people, family members, friends, and neighbours. You know, sometimes the cause of our stress, unbeknown to us, is, well, I say unbeknown to us, but they add up, don't they? So we might not necessarily realise it at the time, because sometimes we've buried these things around. But sometimes when we've lost a relationship with someone, or you know, because we've fallen out with them, and they were at one point, there was a very close part of our lives, and then we fall out, and then our pride kicks in, and all of a sudden we don't want to talk to him anymore, or we think we do, and that causes stress, it causes problems, and because all of a sudden you can't just go and reach out to that person, you can't just go and talk to that person because, oh yeah, you got this problem with him, oh, I'm not talking to them because they did this, or I'm not talking to them because they did that. And realistically, in this day and age, it's so stupid. We need to swallow that pride, and I'm gonna have to swallow my pride on a number of relationships that have been broken down myself, because you know, tomorrow's not promised to anybody, and the last thing I think anybody wants is to think to yourself, oh, I wish I'd have sorted that out. I wish I could have done better, because today's the day. If you've got a friend or family member or a neighbour that you've fallen out with, that you really used to get along with, then I urge you to try, and it can just be a small gesture, invite them out for a coffee or whatever it is that you need to do. But that, imagine how good that's going to feel when you do that. That's going to make you feel good. It's going to make them feel good, and then all of a sudden your life just feels better. You're like, it's just like a nice release, isn't it? So connect and reconnect, and try and rebuild bridges with other people that you might have fallen out with. So spend some time with those. I think that is possibly the most important thing, because we are social animals, and we need people. There's sort of people out there say, I don't need anybody, and I'm one of them people, right? I said I don't like to ask for help, but I do have a small circle of people around me that will offer that help, whether I ask for it or not. So without that, you know, then I know I would really struggle. So find that time, think about it, you know, think about that, how you're going to go about doing that, and you know, put some effort into it. Okay, so connect, get active. Now this is everyone says this all the time, and you know, I was on a phone call to a friend yesterday, and he was feeling a bit down, and he was like, oh, I can't bother doing anything, blah blah blah, and you know, at the time I'd felt a little bit like that myself. I'd been in all day, been tidying up and stuff, and kids stressing me out, all that sort of stuff, and I was like, I just need to get out. So I just got out, went to the park. The park's nice and green. It was nice. It wasn't raining, it wasn't very windy, and you know, it was just nice just to get out for an hour and just have a little walk around, and then also rang a couple of people who I felt I needed to check in with, and you know, that I felt good about that. It was a positive experience. So I reminded him that, you know, you need to get out, you need to go for a walk. It's a nice day, don't waste it. So you got to change your atmosphere, your view. You got to get out there and do that. Obviously, you know, going to the gym is great. Have a kick about, you know, if you've got kids, or you've got, you know, cousins or whatever, you know, like depending on what age you are, but you might have grandkids, you might have siblings, you know, have a bit of a kick about. I can't play football, right, to save my life, but I work in a kids home now, and part of that sometimes means I'll go for a kick about with the kids, and I really enjoy it. It's good fun, get really sweaty and running around chasing the ball, you know, it's good. So, and you can make it quite a regular thing that you do. So yeah, make it a thing. Get out there, get active, and do some stuff. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3 is keep learning. So a lot of time, you know, you especially a lot of stress, I think, comes from being stuck and not being able, and you've been a lot in work, you know, you're struggling because you don't really like your work, you want to be doing something else, but at the same time you're not doing anything about it. You're just moaning to other people who are probably in a similar position to you, and you're all just moaning together. They've been there, right? What you have to do is start making steps in order to get out of that and do something about it. And just think about, it's going to be daunting at first, especially if you've not been in any sort of education or any sort of learning environment for a while. But if you get your head down and start putting that work in, getting up a little bit earlier, maybe staying up a little bit later, start working on your assignments or your coursework or whatever it is that you want to do, think of that sense of achievement that you'll get when you get that, that post that you might post up on Facebook, and then everyone then congratulating you for your hard work, and and just being proud of it yourself. You don't necessarily need gratification from other people, but you know what I mean. Sometimes I've achieved some things in my recent times, that no one knows about unless they speak to them about it, because I get a sense of enjoyment out of not posting stuff on Facebook. And then because I can generally have a conversation with people about stuff. I'm like, oh, what have you been up to? Well, guess what I've been up to. But more often than not, when you post stuff on social media, everyone knows, and it's no longer a conversation that we're having anymore. So that's just me. There's lots of things that I've done, and I'm sure there's lots of things that you've done too, but so not everything needs to go on there. But it's a good place to get an instant bit of round of applause from a lot of people you might not necessarily see all the time. So things like I'm quite keen on I've always wanted to do a new martial art, so that's what at some point in time, hopefully, if not beginning and not towards the end of this year, but beginning of next year, I'd like to start doing some Wing Chun. I've always fancied it. I've done boxing, kickboxing, Thai boxing, and this is something that I've always fancied. Making music, learn how to play an instrument. You can get buying second-hand instruments, keyboards, flute, whatever, violin, guitar, bass guitar. There's all these sorts of things that you could try and learn, spending an hour a day doing that. Maybe not a guitar at midnight, but there's lots of things that you could do. So keep learning, because it's good for the brain, and the brain, it wants to learn. Otherwise, you're going to start losing stuff. So the more connections that you create in your brain, and the more things you can get to sort of reflect on and start, I'm bored, or what should I do? I'll do this, I'll do that, rather than just putting the TV on, switch the TV off and do something new. Start a new project, fix your motorbike, fix your bike, or whatever it is. Start building the table. So keep learning. It's very important. Number 4, give to others. So again, we might not have much, and a lot of us don't. So it doesn't necessarily have to be financial. It could just be an act of kindness. You could just be helping a neighbour out, put the bins out. The elderly couple around the corner, you can help them take the bins out, or just knock on the door maybe and say, do you need any help? I've got a free hour, or volunteer at your local youth club, or around the community doing stuff, picking litter, and there's lots of different things. I quite like random acts of kindness, and this is something you can think about having set the task of the day of being randomly kind to somebody and not posting it on Facebook, because that's not a random act of kindness, that's a random act of pride, where you want everyone to give you a round of applause for doing something good, but that's not what it's about, in my opinion. So random acts of romance as well. If you got a partner, just doing something nice for them. It could be a little thing. Could be just a quick message saying, "Oh, I love you," or "Good morning." Lots of different things you could do. I've recently started, and I got this from the kids' home that I work at, and I thought it was a great idea, especially to look back on in reflection. Is that so? I've got these thank you books. So I just got some books, little notepads, and I write down a thank you for them pretty much every day. And like even if the day was absolute chaos, right, and I'm like been left feeling really stressed out, I then take that moment at the end of the day to think of something that I was thankful for them for. And sometimes it's a struggle, believe me, it can be a struggle, but I find one, and it might be only a small thing, like for example, thank you for coming to the park, or thank you for going to bed when I asked you. It could be something small, but what that does then, it puts a positive thought in your brain. Yeah, so it doesn't always have to then be negative. You know, some days they come quite easily, they come pretty quick, and they come pretty fast. So those are those are times, yeah. Then they help, and you can look back at them yourself, and that again, that is another thing that, you know, looking back at stuff and thinking, oh yeah, I remember that. So when you're feeling down, you can use that, look back at that, and especially if you put some detail into it, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. And again, reconfirming that not everything is bad. So yeah, give to others, with kindness, romance, gratitude, volunteering, and just trying to help around your community. And number 5 is being more present. Now, this is a big one in this day and age, and people still aren't really taking much notice of it. If you're sat in a room, if you go out for a meal, let's say for example, and you got your phone out, and you might say you're with your missus, and you double dating or whatever, and there's another couple sat with you, and you start using your phone, and then people should feel insulted by that, because you decided you probably planned it, you're going out and have a meal, and then all of a sudden you're somewhere else. Now, a little tip for you, again, we're all guilty of this, but sometimes what I find is you can be mindful of not using your phone. When I come home, a lot of the time, I will come home, the phone goes on so automatically, do not disturb at 9 o'clock, I'll just put my phone in the kitchen, and then leave it there. I'll leave it there, because then that's not going to be distracting me, because there's a lot of messages and stuff that come through a lot of the time, so I don't want to. I'm not interested in them at that point in time, especially if I've been at work all day. So put it down, leave it there. Anything that I need to, I can probably check just before I go to bed if I need to, or in the morning, or in a lot of cases 3 or 4 days later. That's just the way it is sometimes. So be more present. Ask questions about people. How was your day? How are you feeling? You know, it's quite easy to forget to ask those sorts of things, but if you can be mindful of those, and people sometimes just want to talk, and then again, if on those occasions, you may just have to listen. You may just have to not stop your mind, and then ask them how they were, and then if someone asks you how your day went, and hopefully they listen to you when you tell them, make sure you ask them how they are, and mean it. How's your day been? How are you feeling? Those sorts of things. It's just so easy to do. And then spend some time. Don't get your phone out. Do not get your phone out during that time, even to check what time it is. If you've decided to have a conversation with somebody because you have the time to do it, don't get your phone out and start having a conversation midway with somebody else. It's rude. Spend that time talking to that person, and then if that conversation comes to a natural end, or you've got to go somewhere, then that's it. Yeah, you've had that. Thank him for the time, whatever, and leave it at that. So I hope that you found that useful. So I'll quickly wrap up. So just let you know that obviously I run a 30-day self-improvement course, which it's basically where you can start off with an interview. An interview sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? A discussion, a talk, whatever you want to call it, 30-minute talk. We just talk about what's going on and how we can sort of help you with your issue, and then we can put that into some sort of plan, and then work our way through it over 30 days. Also, there's some little activities built into that program that will help you, and that'll make everything bespoke to yourself. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and we can get that set up for you. Excuse me. Okay, next up is today's riddle. If you've made it through to the end, thank you very much. Your riddle. Okay, so the more you take, the more you leave behind. What am I? One more time. The more you take, the more you leave behind. What am I? So answers in the comments, and I'll give you the response next week. So, as always, you are loved, you are needed, and you are not alone. So until then, till next time, keep FKN grinding, keep FKN smiling. You know how it is. Take care.